Good evening, I'm Heyling Chan in Hong Kong and welcome to ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show, Carrie Lam condemns an attack on a Hong Kong journalist in Sichuan as speculation over the reporter's assailants grows. Murder suspects taken back to Mong Kok drug den, where they're believed to have beaten the victim to death. Plus, at least 13 people are dead and dozens more injured after suicide bombings target churches in Indonesia. Carrie Lam has condemned an attack on a Hong Kong reporter in Sichuan yesterday during coverage of the anniversary of the deadly earthquake there. It comes as suspicions have grown about the identity of two men who publicly apologized for the assault. That only came after Hong Kong demanded answers, although the chief executive has now said the government can't interfere any further. Evelina Leung reports.
She was barely off her plane when Carrie Lam was bombarded with questions about what happened in Sichuan. Not about the earthquake memorial the chief executive had flown there to attend, but about an attack there on the Hong Kong reporter.
Let me repeat that this incident didn't happen in Hong Kong. However, Hong Kong reporters who work legally elsewhere, including the mainland, should be respected and safe.
The attack took place on Saturday when iCable TV journalist Chan Ho-fai claimed he was trying to film another Hong Kong reporter being surrounded by a crowd. That was when he himself was apparently dragged away by two men and repeatedly kicked. The CE said that after she learned about the attack, her Mainland Affairs Secretary immediately contacted the mainland authorities. They then managed to find the two men responsible. While the pair offered an apology on camera, they tried to justify it by saying they were emotional over the coverage of the tragedy. Since then, there have been media reports saying the pair were actually village officials. iCable have called the incident unacceptable and lodged complaints with mainland authorities. The Hong Kong Journalists Association, meanwhile, condemned both the attack and the slow reaction of mainland officials.
That unlawful act had initially apparently been ignored by the local government, who seemed unwilling, to handle the case. But then, of course, after it caused a huge embarrassment to the Hong Kong chief executive, that they immediately tackled it.
The HKJA says these incidents are not uncommon, and Carrie Lam's government has to do more to protect Hong Kong journalists working on the mainland. The chief executive said it's now up to the mainland authorities to investigate, and the Hong Kong government couldn't involve itself any further.
Police have arrested 5 men and 2 women in connection with the murder of a man whose body was found at a construction site in Chek Lap Kok. The suspects were brought to a drug den in Mong Kok today for a reenactment of the murder. The victim is thought to be a 30-year-old man surnamed Siu, who had a criminal record of drug use, dealing and theft. Police found 2 wounds on the back of his head. They think that after arguing with the suspects, he was beaten to death with a blunt object, which hasn't been found yet. The detainees are also drug users acquainted with the victim and are believed to be triad members. The Customs and Excise Department says it's crushed a local drug syndicate after seizing almost $17 million worth of methamphetamine. Around 32 kilograms of meth, also known as ice, was confiscated in Yuen Long, where a 44-year-old man was arrested. The raid was one of a series of operations yesterday, as authorities also seized $440,000 worth of marijuana in Chuen Wan and arrested a man. Elsewhere, a smaller amount of meth, as well as $50,000 of cash, was found in a flat in Sheung Shui, where a 35-year-old woman was arrested. There, customs officials said they'd got their hands on drug purification tools for the first time, which they said appeared to be used solely for the drug's appearance.
After the process, the drugs will become more whitening and without any bad smell. We believe the drug syndicates that they can increase their competitive and as well as selling a higher price than the normal market price.
Activists are accusing Ocean Park of closing the door of conversation over the animal captivity debate after what some of them called rough treatment by security guards during a protest outside the park yesterday. The protesters were there for the International Anti-Captivity Empty the Tanks Day. Protest organizer Dolphin Family also criticized the government's new budget plan to give the park over $300 million, saying it's supporting injustice. They say it's cruel because dolphins are highly intelligent and shouldn't be used for people's entertainment. Ocean Park has not responded to our inquiries for comment. Well, earlier I spoke to Dolphin family member Tyson Chang, who was at the protest yesterday. I asked him how he felt about Ocean Park's reaction to the demonstrators.
I'm not especially shocked, but I don't think it's especially rough to us throughout all the years. But in terms of numbers of security guards yesterday, it was they sent most security guard to treat us yesterday because they almost treat us as like terrorists, like almost like we were going to bomb Ocean Park. I think it's a sign that Ocean Park just simply didn't want to talk to us. They just simply closed the door of conversation with us. It's a very bad sign for us.
Okay, so Ocean Park says the marine shows make people love the animals more, and so they want to protect them more. And you also used to work at Ocean Park, and so that's the reason why you want to protect them. So how do you think we can humanely treat dolphins to help educate young people about them?
I think if you go to the street, ask any of the kids in the street, like, what can you learn from a dolphin show in Ocean Park? They cannot tell you like anything about what they can learn from a show. But even worse is we worried the dolphin show of Ocean Park just gives some wrong information to our next generation or our young kids. Like they will think that dolphins prefer to be fed by humans, or dolphins will listen to orders of human beings.
China's first homegrown aircraft carrier left its northeastern port to begin sea trials today. State media called the maiden voyage the latest milestone in the country's efforts to modernize its military. CCTV aired footage of the yet unnamed carrier leaving the Dalian port this morning. The carrier was launched about a year ago, but has since then been fitted with weapons and other systems and has not entered service yet. This is part of President Xi Jinping's ambitious plans to update the armed forces as China ramps up its presence in the disputed South China Sea and around Taiwan. Elsewhere in Asia, at least 13 people have been killed and dozens injured by suicide attacks on 3 churches on the Indonesian island of Java. Authorities suspect a homegrown Islamic State-inspired group are responsible. Joel Flint reports.
A church enveloped in flames. These were the scenes from 3 suicide bombs that tore through the Indonesian port city of Surabaya on the island of Java this morning. Authorities there rushed to the site of one of the attacks to find this: scattered debris and chaos. All 3 attacks happened within half an hour of each other.
Based on what we know from the East Java Provincial Police, there are 3 churches so far which were attacked on Diponegoro Street, Arjuna Street, and in the Gubang area, the Santa Maria Immaculate Church.
The victims from the attacks have been identified. The sites, meanwhile, are in lockdown. Officials suspect the hand of an Islamic State-inspired group, although no one has yet claimed responsibility. The Muslim-majority nation has seen a resurgence in homegrown terrorism. Today's bombings come just days after a 36-hour standoff between militant prisoners and counter-terrorism forces at a high-security jail. There, at least 5 police were killed.
At least 1 person has been killed and 4 others wounded in a knife attack in Paris. French officials said the assailant shouted Allah Akbar before he was shot dead by police. Gillian Kitchener has the details.
People fled along Paris streets Saturday night after a knife attack in a central part of the city. Authorities say a man shouting Allah Akbar killed at least 1 person and wounded 4 others before he was shot dead by police. French President Emmanuel Macron praised officers for, quote, neutralizing the terrorist. In a post on Twitter, Macron said France will not yield an inch to the enemies of freedom. and officials said an anti-terrorism unit would launch an investigation. Islamic State claimed responsibility for Saturday's attack, but did not provide proof for its claim. France has been on high alert in recent years after a series of attacks commissioned or inspired by the Islamic State militant group, including the 2015 assault on the Bataclan Theater, where dozens died, just a couple miles away from Saturday's knife attack.
South Korea and the United States have both welcomed plans announced by Pyongyang to close North Korea's only known nuclear test site. That was announced overnight and will reportedly happen before the historic summit between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump in Singapore on the 12th of June. Diane Tote reports.
6 months ago, this might have seemed unbelievable, but a denuclearized North Korea looks increasingly like it might be a reality. North Korean state TV late last night announced details of its plan to dismantle its only known nuclear test site before the end of the month. The official Korean Central News Agency said Pyongyang will collapse all of the tunnels at the Pyongyeri nuclear test site with explosions blocking its entrances. It also plans to remove all the observation facilities and close research buildings and security posts. It's just the latest sign that leader Kim Jong-un plans to uphold his pledge to stop nuclear tests, something encouraging his diplomatic partners.
We welcome this. This shows they're willing to keep their promise made at the Inter-Korean summit through actions beyond words.
The timing is no coincidence. With the closure set to happen between the 23rd and 25th of May, it will be less than 3 weeks before Kim's due to sit down face-to-face with Donald Trump. That meeting in Singapore on June the 12th will be the first between sitting American and North Korean leaders. Trump offered his thanks to Kim in a tweet, calling the plan to dismantle the nuclear test site smart and gracious. Pyongyang said journalists from the US and South Korea will also be invited to cover the disassembly of its facilities. North Korea has also pledged to open territorial airspace to accommodate journalists traveling to the country for the event.
It's time for some sports. Let's start with the Hong Kong Premier League, where Uruguayan star Diego Forlan ended his tenure with Kitchee SC on a high note today as the club beat Yuen Long 2-0. Forlan, who turns 39 next Saturday, will be heading to Russia next. He'll be a commentator for the World Cup this summer. He said he would consider coming back to Hong Kong if there's the opportunity.
Really happy we achieved the goal of being champions. I don't have any offer, so that's why it's finished the contract and I'm leaving, but I don't know. At the moment, nobody offered anything. You know, I'm going to miss Hong Kong and the fans and the team.
And in the Hong Kong Open, Thailand's Saranthorn Krangkunkhasetren clinched gold at the annual tournament, carding a bogey-free final round with 8 birdies to win her first title in the city. Starting the day tied for 12th, the 18-year-old held steady until the 8th when she pulled off 7 straight birdies to propel herself straight to the top of the leaderboard. Hong Kong's top player, Tiffany Chan, meanwhile, finished the day with 2 over to tie for 7th and a 4-under par total 212 for the week. And a return to the Tiger Woods of old at the 3rd round of the Players' Championship in Florida. The 79-time PGA Tour winner carded his best-ever score at the TPC Sawgrass with a 7-under par 65, including this birdie at the par 4 5th. That halcyon green play draws Tiger into joint 9th position going into the final day. There's still some way to go, though, to catch up with leader Webb Simpson, who opened up a commanding 7-stroke lead thanks to shots like this eagle at the par 5 11th. While he might have been trailing by 11 strokes, Woods seemed